Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Chasing the Whimsy. I am your host, Ben. It's going to be an interesting one here today, guys. I'm pre-recording this as a intro to the second half of this episode. For the last couple of weeks, I've been hinting that I got a guest. And before we talk to him, I wanted to go ahead and do a little bit of an intro. Technically, I'm going to have, I'm recording this video, and this will come out as a podcast also, but I'm going to try and cut this in together and put it out also as the video on YouTube. So you can, as I get into it, you'll understand why the importance of the video. But it's interesting. Today's guest is going to be a little bit of a background. Like I said, me growing up, we had I played video games a lot. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64. And on the regular NES, the Nintendo, there were nights, Sundays after dinner, there'd be a Nintendo and a game that, as a family, we would take turns playing. I don't know if at this time we started recording scores, but I vaguely remember. I know other grandma did it when she was playing Millipede on the arcade, where she would write down her high scores. So other grandma, I vaguely remember tracking high scores with her. But this game that we would play as a family, again, taking turns, was originally introduced back in 1989 and quickly became like a phenomenon. Everybody likes it. I promise you, you've all played some version of it. Since its release, it's been released on every gaming platform, mobile device since 1989. The game that I'm referring to is Tetris. Again, if you're watching, listen to this obviously because I need the podcast numbers. But go on YouTube after this and re-listen to it again. On the screen, I got some gameplay of Tetris going on. But this idea, right, where other grandma. Even now, even with JJ and Liam, like we're trying to keep scores and we're all trying to find a way to do better, right? So Tetris was one of those games where you're like, okay, let's keep track of how we're doing and what's going on. And what's interesting is on the NES, I would consider myself one of the better of the family. I was always just really good with the eye-hand coordination and just being able to do it. Like, not saying that everybody else is bad, just I had that slight edge being me. But what I'd say maybe a year and a half ago, looking online on YouTube, I see that Tetris is kind of like, it should be blowing up, but it's not. So when I used to play, I probably couldn't get past level 9, 10, or 11. Like I vaguely remember not like thinking 9 and 10 were great. What I found when I fell down this Tetris rabbit hole online is it's an esport. Like we've heard of esports recently with like a lot of your first person shooters, your fighters, like your Street Fighter, your Mortal Kombats. Your first-person shooters like your Fortnites and Call of Duty. I don't even know if that's a game. Oh, yeah, Call of Duty. But Tetris is like the unsung hero of the esport, I think. It's a wild game. Like, just look at the gameplay happening on the screen here. Like, look how fast it's going. So as I kind of fall down this rabbit hole, I found that what these players are doing is fascinating, right? I used to think level 9, 10, 11 was impossible after that. Give you a little bit of a breakdown. What you see on the screen is level 18. What happens at level 18 is that the pieces are falling about three lines per second, like the horizontal lines, about 3 per second. And then what will happen is right around level 19, right? Because every level is supposed to get a little bit faster. At level 19, it goes from 3 to 2. Like it's dropping 2 per second. Like it's just dropping so much faster. What started to happen here is people started playing Tetris, and what they started to do as this little community was, if you guys pay attention to the score, it always read 9999999, right? So just under 1 million. So what people started to do in the 90s was, let's start seeing if we can, they call it a max out. Let's see if we can max out the score, and let's play to 1 million. We'll start with the part of the problem with this this idea of hitting a max out at 1 million is right around, actually right at level 29. You can see on the screen. What happens is there's a speed change at level 29. When that changes, it now falls like 3-4 times as fast. And sorry about that. And what gets crazy is they considered level 29 the kill screen. Those of you who aren't familiar with games, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man have real famous kill screens. And what happens is it's so far into the game, like you're at such a high level that the original coding in the game just stops working and fucking crashes, right? So what happens is Tetris, people are playing and they're trying to get to a max out. The problem is once you get to level 29, it becomes impossibly too fast for you to move consistently all your pieces to the left or to the right. So what happens is now in the 90s, we consider level 29 as a kill screen. It's just impossible to go too much further. You can keep playing it. Like, that's not the problem. The problem is like it's just too fast for you to do anything with it. So you can luck your way through maybe a level 30, level 31, but 29 for years was considered the kill screen. And so what that means is to get a max out, you have to do it before level 29. That's the goal. What these players started to do is you start at level 18 because of the scoring. We'll get into, I won't even get into that, but there's a scoring purpose to start at level 18. And it starts at that high speed, right? What happens then is you have to get to a level 100 and, where is it? 130. So at 130 is when it transitions into a level 19. And then from there, from 19 to 29 is where you have to, continue playing. So what they found out is you need 230 lines to find a max out. Obviously the Tetrises, which is the 4 line with the long bar, clear. They're like, all right, so to do this, because this is how they're going to consider like high score, like is can anybody even get to the first max out? For years, like I said, in the 90s, a couple of people in the 90s said that they hit it. Some people in the early 2000s said they hit it, that they maxed out. The problem is like when you're playing this thing, you have to have so many Tetrises in those first 130 lines, and then even beyond. It gets like bonkers crazy on how many Tetrises you have to put together. Finally, right around 2005, Again, a lot of people said that they hit it, but what the Tetris community wanted was video proof of these max outs. So a couple of people were like, oh, I had it back in 1990. We're like, yeah, right, sure, whatever. But in 2005, guy named Jonas Neubauer records a max out. I think like level like 27 or 28, right? Or going right into 29. What this does for the community is it proves that you can reach a max out within the 230 lines. So from there, competition just starts blowing up. It starts getting crazy. So because it maxes out at the 9999, right? The problem is if somebody gets a max out earlier, like how do we track those? So then like the high score, right, record converted from who can get a max out to how early can you get a max out. You're getting guys like in 2012, it took 7 years. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. It took like 7 years. Someone finally got a max out at level like 26. Matt Bucco, Terry Purcell, it's a max out at level 25. So what's happening is like we're showing like the evolution of this high score game is people are playing in a way that they only play for Tetrises. Any of you guys who played the game, you're like, yeah, Tetrises are nice, but you have to stack so high sometimes and then still play like have a strategy in a way to hit, your Tetrises every time. Because it maxed out so early, there's so much more game to play, right? Because you're maxing out at level 25. They're like, well, how do we determine who has a better max out early? There was a way that you could like maybe like manually count the like as it drops, like you manually count the scores. Like that was a huge pain in the ass. But in about 2015, there was a game genie code created that would turn the score from nines into a hexadecimal. So basically what happens is once you hit the million, it would convert the score to like an A1 score to represent like a million. And then like it's like a 1B would represent 1.1 million. Once this happened, it blew up the game again because now we have a way of tracking an actual high score versus how early you did it. So players went back out and they're striving to hit this high score. Harry Hung in 2015 hits 1.1 million, 1,101,000. But the game Genie code was already out for 2 years. So like people are hitting max outs and like it's weird because it's bonkers. But we start getting video proof of these games. And 2017, Harry Hung goes and hits 1.2 and was the first person to ever hit 1.2 million points. The idea, real quick, right? If you think about it, this game's been out since '89. People thought level 29 was like the end of the world, like you can't play anymore. Then they're like, let's play it to a max out, and they hit it, and now we get a game genie code, and now we're just flying past. Took what, 15 years? No, 12 years to go from max out to 1.2 million. Jonas Neubauer, I had mentioned earlier, is considered the best Tetris player of his time. Like, I would like to say that he was the best Tetris player ever, but as we continue with this intro real quick, things happen. Neubauer in 2017 hits 1.2 million. 2018 hits 1.24. Like he's playing like a beast. What starts to happen is we've realized that the problem is there's only so many Tetrises you could do in 130 lines, and there's only so much you could do after level 29. What happens is when you guys play on your controller, right, your D-pad, the up, down, left, right, that's considered the DAS style, which is the delayed auto shift. So what happens is when you're pushing the button, like, and you hold it, there's a small delay before it shifts left and right. But what we would find out in 2017 is if you tap the button left or right, it would move. Like you eliminate that delay. Corian has a hand camera, so you can see what he's doing. He started doing hyper tapping. So what happens is instead of you holding your controller and just playing with thumbs, you have to play it in a way that you still hit your A's and B's, but now you're using these two buttons to move left and right. And what starts to happen then is you're able to move pieces twice, 3 times. Like I don't know the numbers, I'm sorry, but you can look it up. But with this hyper tapping, right? This idea of hyper tapping is you're now able to move pieces significantly faster left and right and allow you to control your placements better, and you're able to maneuver the board better. In 2017, like I said, Corian hits level 30, hits 1.25 million points. Like the game is slowly starting to blow up again. 2019 is a real big year for players. Next generation, they're considering it like the next generation of gaming, of Tetris gaming. You get all these kids coming out of nowhere, these like literal kids. There's a kid named Tyler, said to have hit 1.29 million, no video proof. There's these monthly tournaments, these qualifying tournaments. He records it, he hits it. 2018, this kid, so Tyler, we find out, is just a pseudonym for like an alt account for a kid named Joseph Saley. 2018 World Championships for Tetris. Joseph goes in. Neubauer, 7-time world, like 7 in a row. Neubauer won this tournament. Joseph comes in with his hyper tapping, sweeps the tournament, wins it. With this hyper tapping, we find out that we can now reach levels past 29, past 30. Corian hits a 32. Interesting thing real quick here at 32 is similar to how the score would stop counting. At level 30, the level number stops counting. Like there's a bug in it. Like the creators of the game never expected the game to go this long. We see Harry Hong coming out in 2019. We got, again, Joseph, who just won the 18 championship, and Corian. These three are just battling for who can reach the next level. 2019, we see some 1.3 millions. In 2020, we see some 1.4 millions. There's this kid, Dog, who at the time was 12, maybe 13. At the end of 2020, he has 1.38 million points. I kind of expected the intro to go long. Not this long, sorry. The reason why this intro needs to go for so long is because you guys have to, I want you guys to understand what our guest today has done. From 89 to 20, 1.3, 1.4 seems like it was the cap, like maybe level 34, 35s. What happened in 2020 was our guest today. He's playing with a different technique. So remember, we had DAS, which is just the 2 thumbs. We have the hyper tapping where you're using like fucking 4, maybe 5 fingers trying to tap your buttons, right? What starts to happen is this gentleman today, our guest, created a brand new technique called rolling. I'll have him explain what the hell this thing is, what rolling is, but he revolutionized the way that the game of Tetris is being played. The way that this rolling technique, you turn the controller upside down and you roll your fingers on the back of the controller into your fingers. So instead of your fingers trying to tap it, you're rolling 5 fingers into the fingers to push it. Now you're getting like 20 presses per second. Like that's how fast you're being able to tap. Once rolling was introduced, then it's like, hey, could we reach level 40? People are hitting level 40. Because since rolling, again, I guess we'll talk a little bit about it. And I want to know what it's like. I think he was 16 when he did this. What he eventually did, Cheez, our guest, what he eventually did. Let's see. In 2021, the high score is 1.67 because of rolling. Cheez in November, I think. I got my dates maybe mixed up, but I'll clear it up when I talk to him. He's level 60 at 2.3 million points. Like he makes such a jump. Like for months, years are going by, and we're only seeing 0.1, 0.2 increases. Cheez comes out, perfects his rolling, dominates the game, 2.3. We're going to talk with Cheez in a moment. The fascination I have with Cheez and with this game right now is that for years the game was deadlocked. We were done. 29 is like the furthest we can go. 1,000,000.1 is the furthest we can go. Let's just fast forward to where we're at today. We get players, and these people are teenagers, and they're playing at a game never seen played before. Pixel Andy is big in the community. He's hitting like 6.4. Dog Plays is hitting like 6 mils. What happens? And then there's just so much stuff going on. What starts to happen now is because of rolling, because of Cheez, the level 29 kill screen and the speeds of 29 no longer matter. They don't exist. The speed is no longer a factor. It's an endurance game now. What starts to happen now is, I think earlier December, 2023, you might have seen a news article on the news that Blue Scooty, a 13-year-old, beat Tetris. What he did was he got to level 200 or 157 and crashed the game. He got so far into the game that the code didn't know what the hell it was doing and crashed. Like a legit kill screen, he crashed the game. Shortly after that, March of this year, Alex Thratch plays an amazing game. An amazing game. Again, 2.6, like 6 million is like the record, right? Alex, 16 million. The game's at a standstill for years. Cheez comes in, and within 3 years, we are taking leaps and bounds into this game. What's starting to happen is we're now, so you can crash the game, right? Like Blue Scooty did. But because of rolling, how do we beat the game now? How do we determine like how the game is beat? Because the game crashes at different levels. It's like huge fucking mess. But what we're able to find out now, what these kids are doing at like the ages of like 12 to 16, 17. Cheez was like 16 when he did it. He's 19 now, I think. But what's starting to happen is this idea, what happened, the game in its code says that there's only 255 levels. Level like 230 has 800 lines to get to the next level. So what's starting to happen is we are getting to a place, I don't have the notes here. Alex, I think, hit like 2 something. I don't know. He's like, we're hitting levels at such a point where we are a year, 2 years away from finding a player to dodge all of the crashes throughout the game. So like, you have to, like, you don't want, at this point, we don't want the game to crash. We want to keep it going as far as we can. Once you hit level 255 and you get your 10 lines, the game starts back over at 0. It's called the rebirth. Again, what were my dates? 2007, 2005? Like, we're trying to get to 1 million. We get to 1 million, and then we struggle for 10 more years. Our guest Cheez today creates a technique that revolutionizes this game to the point that we are like literally within striking distance of seeing a recorded rebirth, a game that's played all the way through 255, a level that has 800 lines to get through. That is only achievable with our guest Cheez today. This is a pre-record, so you'll keep listening. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna go. This is gonna be a long episode. It is what it is. Fuck it. But we have Cheez here today, and he was super grateful, gracious, I think is the right word, to come on and talk with me today. He is a fascinating person. He's very nice. He's a great person. We're going to find out a little bit more about Cheez, how he created rolling, the community of Tetris, because the community is fucking bonkers, dude. They're amazing, these people. And what he's going to do moving forward. Like, is he pushing for a rebirth? Does he play competitively anymore? So I think for the long intro, I did have my notes. Kelly and Megan were like, it's going to be too long. But I think it needs to go long, because I think to fully like, you can't just be like, oh, Cheez, he plays Tetris. The guy fucking revolutionized the game. He took us out of the Stone Ages. He evolved us to such a way that we're doing things with the game that nobody's ever considered possible or even thought about. At no point in 2005 where we were like, let's get to like 2 billion points. No, it was never like that. It was like, let's get to 1,000,001. And now we're hitting 16 million and plus. Hang out. We're going to go ahead and you'll hear the intro again, and we're going to get into talking with Cheez. I appreciate you guys for the long intro. Please stay. Please watch the YouTube, so you can. I'm going to show some of his games so you can see what this guy is doing back in 2021. I appreciate everything. Hang out, and then we'll see you in a minute. Thank you. Hello, welcome to Chasing the Whimsy. I'm your host, Ben. I'm going to put this at the back of the intro that I did. It went a little bit longer than I thought it would. But again, at the end of that video, I mentioned the history of Tetris is long. It's big. Big standstills for years. We're in a resurgence of Tetris. Our guest today is going to be Cheez, who I mentioned, creator of the rolling technique. He's with us. Unfortunately, he doesn't have his webcam, but which is okay because you guys are going to watch some of his gameplay as we talk and hang out today. Cheez, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you again for coming on. What was your first reaction when I reached out to you?
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I think I was honestly just really, I felt very honored because I really enjoyed the concept of your show, and I really appreciated that you wanted to have me on it.
I fell down this rabbit hole a little bit ago because I used to play Tetris. Like we all, it's one of those games that probably everybody has played some version of it at some point. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's one of the most famous games.
And then I watched competitive Tetris, and I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And then I fell down this rabbit hole in which I found just the history of the high score, and that for years we couldn't get past like 1.3 million. And then you popped up, and I'm like, what's this guy doing? And then you're crushing it. You're killing it for like 2020 to 2022, and even now you're still killing it. But before we get into some of the Tetris stuff, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I've kind of been away from the Tetris scene for a while. So like in my years away, I guess I've been focusing a lot more on school, and like I have a lot of hobbies. Like I I get sucked into a subject super easily, so I've kind of been bouncing around between different activities apart from Tetris. So yeah, I guess that's
what kind of activities.
I play like other video games. Like there's this game on Minecraft called Bed Wars. It's like that was pretty big for a while. I've been playing piano since I was really little, so I've been doing that a lot. I got really into psychology in high school, so I've been self-studying a lot. I've taken a few courses on that. That's been super fascinating to me, and yeah, I don't know.
It's a little bit of everything. I love it. Are you still in school, high school?
No. Okay, well, I technically just graduated, but I was in like a weird high school program where I was also in college at the same time. I don't know. It's always hard to explain, but sure. I got out of high school.
Fair enough. So we're in the summer. We're going to college. What are you going to college for?
Psychology.
Nice. You're still going to find a way to balance some Tetris while schooling?
Yeah, I've been getting back into it a lot more recently. I just went to the World Championships, so that kind of reignited a spark within me, I guess. So I've been really getting back into things. It's been very fun.
That would be the CTWC. That's what it is.
CTWC, yeah.
That's part of one of the reasons too. When I was watching a video, I'm like, I'm CTW, they're CTWC. So like the idea of
they've been copying you.
I'm like, what if I went there during the event and it would be CTW with CTWC, and I'm like, I just thought it'd be funny.
Yeah.
What does your family think of you playing Tetris?
Oh, well, I'd say right now they're quite supportive. Like they I guess they they tend to see it as very novel. I don't know, because they aren't super big into like the whole gaming scene, so it took a while for them to like actually understand what I do in the Tetris scene, but I
like they don't understand the legitimacy of what it is that you've accomplished, you and everybody else has accomplished in this game.
That I'd say that used to be the case.
Okay.
But it's a different world, I guess. So it's hard to wrap your head around if you're not like super deep into it. Like I've been playing video games since I was really little, so I I guess it was a lot easier to grasp initially, but yeah, I'd say now they kind of just see it as like I'm a competitor in a sport, I guess, which makes sense.
It's fascinating that this is becoming it's an e-sport of sorts. I definitely think it's an underrated. I don't think in the esports community, I don't think it gets the love and recognition that it should. So hopefully this podcast helps a little bit, because it's crazy to see like on screen right now. That's your rolling technique. Sorry, Cheez is the one on the left. But he's this was 2020. This is in the early stages of rolling. No.
I'm pretty sure this was 2022, if I'm remembering right, because I actually found the rolling technique in October of 2020. So it was very primitive back then. I was not very good at it at all. It was hard to actually see the potential in it at all back then, but I seem to be doing all right.
How did you find the idea for this technique?
Oh, okay. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been playing piano since I was really young, and there's this technique for hitting the same note a bunch of times in a row. It's called repeated notes. So you use all of your fingers to maximize your efficiency, I guess. And I saw this other video on button mashing by Silverboxer. It detailed like this technique for the N64, where you would like hit inputs from the back with your other hand. So I guess the dots kind of just connected in my head, and I combined those two ideas together, and it ended up working out in the long run. It was it's kind of I got lucky.
Oh, fair enough. Were there like multiple iterations of this particular technique? Because it looks like right now on screen, you have it rested up against the leg. You got your glove. Were there a couple like early stages where it was a little bit more awkward?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think I kind of used the same basic grip that I did when I first started out, but it took a lot of tweaking to get it to be actually usable. When I first thought of like applying piano to the controller, it was just me trying to like use the repeated note technique on top of the D-pad, and the D-pad buttons are so small that it was completely unusable. But once I found out that you could input from the back, I quickly tried to find a way how to rotate, and from there it kind of just ended up working out, I guess.
On the screen here we got Alex T. He's using more of a hyper tap technique I mentioned in the intro. Did you ever hyper tap, or did you go straight from like dash to rolling?
Yes, I was a hyper tapper from I want to say like mid 2019 to the end of 2020. So I was a hyper tapper for a very long time. I was very invested in trying to play on the kill screen back when it was a really hard thing to do, I guess. Like nowadays it's kind of seen as something that's a given because rolling is so fast, but like back then it was very difficult for players to make any sort of progress. So yeah, I was trying to maximize my potential there before I figured out how to roll.
What kind of scores were you seeing as a hyper tapper?
I was on the slower side of the hyper tappers, so I wasn't able to get like super high scores very consistently. I I could probably expect like a max out or maybe a 1.1, but my mindset was very oriented around getting as high of a personal best score as possible. So I was able to get a 1.38, I think, in the peak of my tapping.
which is
A
interesting because
1.38 million.
yeah, so it kind of like shows like hyper tapping has a ceiling. Like you can only go so far hyper tapping. Um, how do you feel knowing that people have adopted the rolling technique and that are just blowing the game up right now?
I find it super exciting. I think like every year or two, the game has like this massive surge of new people who are interested in it, and I always find that super endearing, I guess, because this community has brought me so much, and I don't know, it makes me super happy to see a bunch of people getting involved again. Like I think Blue Scooty was like the most recent explosion of the scene, like with all of the media and such. A bunch of YouTubers jumped on that, and it just exposed the scene to a whole bunch of new people, and I think that is super exciting.
In at the age of 13, he did what, the first kill screen, right? Back in December.
He got the first game crash.
Oh, game crash. That's what I meant. Which was intense.
Right, yeah. It was a really long battle between people. That's kind of like when I was on my break, so I honestly didn't really know what was going on, but when I started seeing that somebody crashed the game, it was very exciting for me. Because like as a hyper tapper, that was really only something that people theorized about. They never really thought that it would actually happen.
Right, because for years it was just this arbitrary quote unquote kill screen at level 29, and they were just like, it's because it's impossible to play. We got occasionally you saw like a 30 or 31 level, but just the speeds of it, it got to the point where they're like, we're just going to designate this the quote unquote kill screen. And then to see Blue Scooty just be like, well, I'm just going to play for an hour and just destroy this game. Like,
right, yeah.
It's interesting. It's like the first time, like human like destroyed the game. Was just quit. The game was like, I had enough and tapped out. How do you play? Do you play on the original NES?
Yes, since I was like 12, I played on an original console. For a while, I was an emulator player, but for the majority of my career, I played on an original NES, original controller, and I think that honestly gives you a pretty big advantage with like latency and stuff. It was quite helpful.
Can we hook up an NES to a computer to get like, because you guys when you guys tournament play for like your monthly qualifiers and stuff, you have to do it all online?
Yeah, you have to stream your games through like a capture card to a stream and play live for an hour.
Real quick, this was on screen was this would be the first time you won the CTM, which is the monthly tournament.
Yeah, I think that was the only time I won, but I'm still happy about it.
Oh, that's awesome. Did they actually give you a trophy? They mail you one?
No, but I was mailed like this like arts and crafts bear from like one of the members of the community. I was very happy about that because there are only a limited amount of them in the world. It's a pretty exciting thing, in my opinion.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. The tournament. Like what kind of tournaments are there? You're getting back into it. I see you on Twitch, and I try to jump in and show whatever support I can. Just watching you practice, and then I think you just qualified for one of the monthlies the other day. What kind of tournaments are there that you're active in?
Ooh, well, I'm really just getting back into things, so I wouldn't say that I'm like active in anything right now, but I just qualified for a few tournaments. So Classic Tetris Monthly, that's like seen as the main tournament for everybody who plays Tetris. I think like over 100 people qualify every month, which is absolutely wild to me. I used to play in Classic Tetris League, which is a pretty big one. I might get back into that pretty soon. I just qualified for Classic Tetris Wars, which is I think it's like a team format with like a bunch of different, I want to say mini games, but I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. One of my friends kind of just told me to qualify for it and said it would be fun, so I'm trusting her judgment. So yeah, there are a lot more different competition types to what there was when I played. Like it was really just this one format that everyone played in all of their tournaments, and we would just like rack up a bunch of those. But I think now people are diversifying a lot more, which I think is really interesting.
Well, and it's great that the game is at a place where we can expand on the different formats that we can play. Because again, for so long, it was just like there's only so many formats you could do of like who can get to 29 faster, I guess. And that was the whole thing for in the early 2000s was trying to get capped out, as early as you maxing out as early as you can. Like some people did like level 25, 26. So yeah, I love the idea that the sport's evolving, always. Real quick on the screen here, I love watching you play because when you miss drop, like it doesn't seem to shake your confidence in any way. You just like, I meant to put it there, and then you just work it down.
I feel like this game I was absolutely terrified actually. Like it looks like I'm not shaken up at all because I just keep playing normally. But like in reality, I was probably in a ginormous panic when I misdropped that much. But like you really just have to stick with your guns in situations like that. So it's it's a test of your mind versus your emotions, I guess.
All right. It's crazy because like this isn't sped up in any way. This is like legit gameplay, and I can't just like I can't understand how it works. Like because like you still see the next piece, right? So you're still calculating one piece ahead still in theory, right?
Yeah. The whole time when I'm playing 29, it's like it's the only speed in NES Tetris where you really have to do this, but you are pretty much just deciding your next piece while you're playing the current piece. In earlier levels, you can have a lot more flexibility, like you can adjust your current piece for the next piece. But on 29, it becomes drastically harder to do anything like that.
I'm going to go ahead and play the audio of this one real quick for you. This one is, I love this. This was one of my favorite moments of you playing. Hold on a second. Let me see. So this would have been a game where you started at level 29.
Ooh, I think this was my 2.3 million. So yeah. I started on 18. I was qualifying for Classic Tetris Monthly, actually.
That's
this
so
was
great.
A game where I pulled off something crazy.
I'm waiting for it. Give me a second.
Oh, what's up, Abisoft? What's up? Oh my god, let's go. Woo!
So at this point, nobody's ever done
1.8. No, this was the world's record. Let's go! Holy crap!
Like, yeah,
oh my god, I cannot believe it.
I love it, like, because like most people, when they hit like a certain point, they kind of like distract, and then they kind of like they just top out. But you're just like you're still going. Oh, it's amazing. And then
yeah,
and you go for like 6 more minutes.
Do I really?
Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, a couple more minutes. This is awesome that you were able to get this recorded. Like the first moment that someone, because the record here was like 1.5 ish, and then you're just like you're killing it right here.
Yeah, it was. I think I had a bounty for 1.7 million, so I've been going for that. But I was not.
Oh my god!
I was
2
not expecting
million!
to get such a big jump.
Right?
Holy crap!
Like,
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
I don't have it on the screen, but your chat is just like exploding right now. Like,
Yeah, I think anytime someone gets a world record, the entire community comes over and starts celebrating.
That was a level 58
This is
Tetris.
insanity, honestly. I never expected to get this high of a score. And it's still
59
going.
Tetris.
Dude, I'm not even nervous anymore.
That's kind of an interesting thing to say because when Fractal was going after his crash run right before Scooty, Alex Thatch, when he just dominated the world record at 16 million, they all said something very similar where they were like, it gets to a point where your nerves calmed a little bit and you're able to kind of refocus a little bit, because the speed doesn't change anymore, right?
No, yeah. After level 29, it's all the same for another 220 levels or so. So it's really a test of how well you can play on this one speed for an extended amount of time.
I don't think I mentioned it in the intro, but there's a couple of hiccups with the color changes. We have the infamous charcoal, and there's another color that are almost impossible to play. Have you reached those heights?
Yeah. Not yet. I have played on them. Like, I've practiced for them, I guess, using different versions of the game, but I haven't actually been able to get to that point yet since I've came back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely challenging, and I can see how that would trip someone up, especially if their like TV settings are too dark. Like that could be a real problem if you can't see what pieces you need to place.
That is fascinating. I enjoy watching you play. I love watching all you guys play. Let's talk about that community a little bit. So you just got back from the CTWC. Where was that located this year?
That was in Pasadena. They've been in Portland every year except for this year, I think. So it was a big change.
You fly out there. How many people attended?
Ooh, I'm not sure actually. I want to say like in the Tetris area there were hundreds at a given time. It was really big. Like especially during the finals, there was a giant crowd watching.
That's fascinating. How did you place in that tournament? Your first tournament back after a small break?
I think I got top 16, which I'm actually pretty happy with. Yeah, it's not bad at all because in 2022, I think Beast and Shen with World Puzzle League, he ran like this poll on who would win CWC, and they ended up thinking that I would. So I think that added a lot of stress, and I ended up just losing in the first round. But it's okay. I'm really happy that I kind of redeemed myself, especially since I hadn't played in so long.
When you come back to it, all muscle memory, like do you have to? Is there a time like a? You have to get used to it again. You have to get back into the string of things, or you kind of come back and you're like 2.5.
It's really weird because I after I take a really long break, I found that for like a day or two, I'm actually playing like at my best. Like I think my mind has a chance to like readjust to things, I guess, and for some reason it helps me to take a long break and then come back. But after that, you see like a giant drop. So after those few days wore off, I had to like completely rebuild my play. Like my rolling was all over the place. My stacking was a lot worse than it was before. I wasn't reacting to things as well. Like it's I don't know. It's an interesting process that I don't think anyone fully understands.
As I watch you play a little bit, do you prefer, like, where do you like your Tetris well? Like, do you prefer more towards the left, right, or do you like a middle well?
On 18 and 19, I definitely prefer a right well. Like that's the standard that everyone goes by, really. Like since I started playing, all of the top players would advise that we stay in a right well. So that's just what I did. I followed the greats and I stuck to my right well until kill screen came around, because that was kind of like new territory. And I thought from a long-term perspective, it would actually be optimal to stay in a center well to survive the longest. So that's exactly what I ended up learning. I went for exclusively center wells on 29.
That's interesting. And I've never like broke, like I'm sitting here kind of watching a little bit more. You guys don't rotate pieces more than like once. Like I don't see a lot of like double rotates on these. So does that play into your strategy when you're playing? Is you know that you're only going to rotate it, most of the time once. So like when you misplace, sometimes it's because you already foresaw where the next piece is going to go with a one rotate. Or have you ever actually noticed that you don't ever double rotate anything?
I think it's just like that was just my muscle memory, honestly. Like
Okay,
I was very comfortable rotating twice. It's just I guess a lot of my placements ended up being that way. I'm noticing that too, actually. I didn't notice that before.
It's fascinating because obviously it's not something that you're thinking about while you're playing. You're like, left 59, let me double rotate. But it's fascinating to watch this. I love it. Who are some of your friends in the community? Who do you Tetris with? Who do you follow on Twitch?
Ooh, I honestly have so many friends in the community. Like I've made some really great friendships. I'd say my closest friends who I've been around like since I started playing, that would be like Hydrant Dude, Coffee, Opox, Huff. Like a lot of the top players now are from the 2019 like new tapper wave era. So I started learning hyper tapping alongside these people, and now they're kind of still around and they're learning rolling, and we're all still friends from way back then, 5 years ago now. It's crazy.
What's interesting was Hydrant Dude and Huff, it was back in like 2021, it was the three of you were like the two watch Tetris players. You guys were the ones that were you just battling for the 1.4s, the 1.6s, level 52s, and then you come out of nowhere the end of 21, and you're like, hey everybody, let me just hit a 2.6 or a 2.3. Which is great, like, because at that point no one's ever seen a jump that big. Like we were always looking at just like just the extra one, the extra 0.1. So it's crazy to see you guys just doing it, man. So it's fun to know that you hung out with your more or less class, your Tetris class.
Yeah.
Do you have any people that you look up to in the Tetris community?
Ooh. Gosh, I feel like everyone who I look up to is like my heroes from when I was like just starting out, like I was a huge fan of Jonas, of course, like as everyone is when they first start out. Jeff, Harry, Corion, Joseph, like a lot of the people who were at the top when I was just learning are really the people that I looked up to and the people who pushed me to be able to get as far as I did with the game, I would say.
What's interesting, so do you guys, I saw the video with Fractal when Blue Scooty hit his, but you guys are all very supportive of each other, trying to take each other's world records?
Yeah, of course. I think ultimately the Tetris scene is a community endeavor. So regardless of whether you're losing a world record or not, you're going to cheer on the other people if they have a chance to do something great with the game. Like it's I don't know, you put the needs of the community above yourself at a point.
I love your guys' community, very supportive, like all over. Again, you guys can look at the Fractal tries to crash video, and he's a little hard on himself and he's pushing for it, and then he gets an alert that Blue Scooty was going for it, and then he kept his webcam on, and for 15-20 minutes Fractal's right there just like cheering. I love how you guys all cheer each other on when it hits that point. You guys just drop everything and you're like, let's keep watching, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so great. Like, it's honestly such a supportive, amazing community, and always has been since even since I started. Like a lot of the players now were not around when I first started, but like even back in 2018, it was very supportive and tight knit. Everybody knew each other and supported each other. It's very great.
Since you've been gone a little bit, and the game is just every day, literally, there's a chance that something big can happen. Do you still hold any world records?
I think I just got the level 16 start world record. Like that's
Okay.
obviously not something people go for, but I think it's funny to say regardless. I also have had the 100 line speedrun record for a few years now, but that's also not exactly on the top of people's radars. It's okay. I understand, but like if I take a break for a few years, people are gonna improve a little bit.
I like the idea that you're like sometimes you're just like, I want to play level 16.
No, I was doing this challenge to max out on every level, so that was part of it, and I ended up getting a really good run on level 16. So it was just
nice.
By chance, and like I've lost all my records. I'm gonna take it.
It's big out there. What is your current high score? Level 18 level. What do you guys typically start at? Level 18 or 19?
I think a lot of people are leaning more towards 19, but since I wasn't really good at 19 whenever I played, I still play on 18. But I honestly wouldn't be able to tell you what my highest score was, because I thought it would just be a mental roadblock to know what my PB was at any given time. So I would go out of my way to not know my PB just so I wouldn't have that roadblock in my mind.
Oh, honestly, that's good. That's a decent strategy. I never thought of that. Right? Because if you knew, and as you start getting closer to it, then you psych yourself out.
Get nervous. Right, yeah. And going back to like the mental thing from earlier where you like have nerves around a certain point, like I've done some stats on this because I was really I found it very interesting. But like as people approach like the world record or like their personal best or something, their nerves will go out of control and they're like far more likely to die. So I felt like I would just remove that altogether by not having like a wall to take down, I guess.
Oh, that's a good strategy. I don't think most people to look at it that way, but it makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that nowadays just because I I don't really it's not really my biggest priority to get as high of a score as possible. But back then it was definitely I would use every strategy in my arsenal to get as far as possible.
What's next for you in Tetris? You have any? Are there any goals or anything that you're striving for personally or competitively?
Goals. I would say like the traditional like colors and then eventually crash. But as far as competition, I really just want to get back to a good state. Because like back when I won CTM, I was one of the best at competition in the world. So I want to get back to a level where I would have a chance of winning, I guess. I qualified in the top 16 this month, but I I don't exactly see myself winning with these people who have been going crazy the last few years.
Well, you never know. To be fair, you didn't think you were going to hit 2.3, and you just kind of just went
true,
off.
I guess.
Oh, good times. It's an interesting game, and I'm glad that you play and that you help create this rolling. Anybody who looks to start playing competitive Tetris or just wants to try rolling, are there tutorials out there like on how to roll? Like, how do I find out how to
there
roll?
are.
Okay.
I could look for one if you want, but I'm pretty sure there are some tutorials out there on how people roll with like a bunch of the different grips and stuff. But if you just want to get into Tetris in general, there's a really great Game Scout video that details like everything you'll need to get into things properly.
And anybody can play this thing. That's my favorite part.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, like nobody's good when they start out.
Right, and again, Blue Scooty's what 13? He might have just turned 14. So
I think he's 14 now, but yeah, he's been doing great things.
Alex Thatch, he's 16 when he hit his 16 million. Like, it's crazy what's happening out there. Do you think we'll ever see a rebirth? Do you think we'll avoid all the game crashes and find a rebirth?
Ooh, I I honestly don't think so, because crash dodging eventually gets like almost impossible in the later levels. So like with the game modification we usually play with, it takes that factor out of the equation. I think that kind of a rebirth could definitely happen.
Okay.
But when it comes to having to dodge every single crash up until level 0 again, it seems really unlikely for humans to be able to do, honestly. But I've been surprised before.
I've seen the spreadsheet. There's I forget his name, and I apologize. But he has it mapped out of where all the game crashes are on a spreadsheet, and it's fascinating that like like there's like 50 levels you have to avoid a crash, and like he has it mapped out. So when Blue Scooty did it, he needed a single line moving into like level 235 or something like that, and that's where the game crashes. So like you have to memorize all of those different game crashes, and sometimes there's like 2 or 3 different things that would trigger a game crash. I don't know. I'd love to see it. Like I think that you will help contribute to a legit NES game crash at some point. Do you think there's a different technique somewhere that you haven't figured out, or the next Cheez finds? Is there, in your experience and your expertise as a competitive Tetris player, is there anything more you guys can do to that controller to make it better?
So within the current limitations of the game, I would say no, just because rolling allows you to move the pieces at like 30 taps per second, right? And the game only processes 30 taps a second. So like with the precision that rolling allows you to move pieces with, it is the fastest that you actually need for the limitations of the game. but there are definitely faster ways to push buttons out there.
Right.
So if we find a way, or I mean, I guess if we if we include a way to move pieces faster than that, then it would definitely be more viable to use something like drag clicking, I guess, is something a lot of people do. Where you just like, you slide your finger on the back of the controller, it creates friction, and then you can move pieces at like 60 times a second instead.
Okay.
So it's possible if competition goes in the right direction, I guess.
And I think what you helped start was this revolution of pushing, like between you and your technique and the community. All you guys do is keep pushing each other. So, it's just a matter of time, I think, before we see something else come out. Do you acknowledge that what you've done has changed the game forever? Like, not to take away from any of the players individually, but your contribution to Tetris, like, have you ever thought about it, or has it registered that you have done something that nobody for 35 years has done, and you revitalized the game and put people in a position to do things we never thought possible?
I honestly don't think it ever has fully processed, I guess. I feel like I just I just found the technique and was really, really excited about it, and I don't think I ever let it get to my head or anything, but I don't know. I was just really happy that there was a new way to play the game, and that there would be new people learning and getting to experience the community that I pretty much grew up in.
Right. Because, like, in theory, like, if we were going to go like a Mount Rushmore of Tetris players, Jonas obviously would be up there. Blue Scooty would be up there, but I would have to say you would deserve a spot on there. And I love that you did it for the community, and that you didn't like hide it, for years until you mastered it. I mean, obviously you slow rolled it a little bit. You perfected it before you introduced it. But I love the idea that you found something, and then you kind of tweaked it a little bit, so that way when you're able to introduce it to the world, that it was more or less perfected to a point where people can kind of adapt it themselves and kind of make it their own. Where can we find you on the socials or Twitch?
So on YouTube you can find me or my games, my 2-year-old games on youtube.com/Cheez Tetris, I think is my YouTube right now.
Yeah.
I'm far more active on Twitch, so that would be twitch.tv/Cheez_E. And my Instagram is also Cheez Tetris, I think. So yeah, that's where you can find me. But like, honestly, I feel like the community is what deserves a shout out, because that's I never would have been able to get here without everybody that everyone that I got the privilege of meeting and becoming friends with.
Oh, definitely. And are there? I'm going to shout out a couple, and I know that there's so many of you guys out there, but definitely Blue Scooty. You guys are doing great things out there. Pixel Andy, Fractal, Eric, IEX, definitely Jonas. I know that he had passed away, but he did so many cool things with the community. 7-time world champion. He kept playing the game when most people didn't want to, and he kind of helped bring the game, kind of keep the game relevant in the early days. Again, there's so many of you guys out there, and I, if I didn't name you, it's not because you're not important. I love the community, and I love all you guys. the part of the original reason I asked you that I reached out to you was I like the idea that a 19-year-old changed the world. I have a 4-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son. He's currently like big into wrestling and stuff, and I know that he burns out sometimes, or I mean, him, just kids in general when they try to do things like this. If they get burned out or discouraged, do you have any advice for our younger listeners on how to maintain a focus?
Hmm.
I snuck that one in on you. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to find a solid answer that applies to like everything. I would say find a sustainable source of motivation. Like I wouldn't have gotten anywhere close to where I have in Tetris without having a bunch of friends who also played Tetris and would talk about Tetris every day. And I just I've been so close with these people for so long that I guess it kind of became a part of me in a way. And there's like this joke in Tetris that nobody can retire, but I think that's because the community is so close that you always want to come back, and there's always room for you to grow as a person and experience the community more. So I guess like if you find that equivalent in whatever you want to do, things become a lot easier if you have like this support system in place, I guess.
All right. Well, that's all I got for you, Cheez. I appreciate you. Well, I guess I should go one more. I think everybody will be asking, where do we come up with the name Cheez?
Oh, to be completely honest, I do not remember. I get this question all the time, and I feel like I'm never able to give an adequate answer because I came up with it when I was 12 or so. It was I'm pretty sure it was an inside joke with my like middle school friends. So I could I guess theoretically I could go ask them, but I'm pretty sure I don't know if any of them would remember it.
So it's a product of being 12 when Cheez was just the funniest thing you can come up with.
like a lot of usernames.
Right? I mean,
after a while.
Mr. Beast, he didn't even pick that. He picked it was a default name when he was playing games. What was it, Beast 3000? And he just dropped like his whole thing was on Xbox. It was just a random default name, and he took it, and then from there he just built this empire.
I didn't know.
I like it because you could tell, sometimes when you get some of these names, you're like, oh, that's definitely a kid name, and you just keep it, and then you built this persona of this Tetris community, and now you're like, it's interesting. But that's all I have for you today. I appreciate you for taking the time to hang out with me today. And
yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. You have such a great show.
Thank you. I hope that everybody listening goes and looks at Cheez and just YouTube's just Tetris, like just competitive Tetris, and just follow everybody. I love watching Fractal play. Alex is an awesome player. And your personalities come out when you guys live stream all of these things. So start with Cheez and just fall down a rabbit hole for one weekend and just experience the community, because it's a great community. I game a little bit. I used to play Magic the Gathering, and we're toxic. So it's refreshing to see a community that's so supportive. Like my son, with his wrestling, he found in that community, everybody's really supportive. So it always kind of like, it's different from when I was playing games. It was always like, you can't take mine. And if I had the one leg up, I wouldn't tell you. And it's great to see you guys all just helping each other out and just really pushing each other to go to new lengths So follow Cheez, watch some of his games, follow him on Twitch. Like he said, he's playing a little bit more frequently, and just look at the community. It's a great community. It's a feel good story. Also, Summoning Salt has a 2-hour-long video about the history of the world record, and it goes all the way up through the end of 2023. So it's a semi-recent one, Summoning Salt. I used him a little bit to get some of my research from that intro. So there's a lot of videos out there. It doesn't get the recognition and the support that it should from outside, and I hope that we can enlighten you guys to really embrace this Tetris community, because they're a good bunch of people. And Cheez, you have a good night. I hope you come back on when you win your next monthly here. Fingers crossed soon. And then maybe we'll do another interview as you prep for CTWC next year.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me on again. I really appreciate it.
All right, Cheez, you have a great night. Thank you.
Are you too? Thank you.
Whimsy.